Hey, I've been in the mountains and on the road. I'm in Kansas City now. And a lot kind of has happened since, I guess the last vlog I did was Thursday night, and that was in the mountains, so I had to wait to upload it. I uploaded it yesterday, I think Sunday. Today's Monday. We were planning on being back in Kansas City today, which we did. So Thursday we were like, hey, let's go just spend the last couple days in the mountains, which we did. So we did some dashing, and then we went up to the mountains Thursday night, and then stayed Friday and Saturday in the mountains, and then Sunday morning we left. And it's kind of interesting. We checked our oil on the way out of the Medicine Bow Mountains and discovered a couple mice had gotten into our engine compartment. This happened pretty close to a year ago up in Montana at Kentla Lake, I think, and Glacier National Park. So we were there for a few days or so. So when the car sits out in the boonies for a few days, this is a thing that can happen. And I've researched on it, and apparently it's not that uncommon for people that live out in these kinds of places and stuff. And if a car sits, not for a really long time, but just even a little bit, that can happen. And I feel like my eyes are looking in different directions. But I'm not seeing crossed or anything. Anyway, so when it happened last time, we researched and we put mothballs in different places in the engine compartment and like the fenders, and put out some traps and stuff. So we did the same thing again, and we noticed when we were leaving Walmart in Laramie, because we stopped there to get some of the mothballs and stuff, as we were pulling out of our spot, because we had gotten some mothballs and traps and we put the mothballs out. A mouse was in our spot, like kind of running away, kind of, and so apparently it got him out. And I think maybe the other one we saw got out before that, because we kind of we're trying to capture him because we could see him. We had one on the windshield, he kept getting under the wiper blade to evade our attempts, and he ended up ultimately evading our attempts and running down into the fender. And another one did the same thing, and but ended up coming back out, and then went down deep into the engine and may have just ran out, because he went down to the bottom and may have just hopped out then. So I think they're gone. I hope they're gone, so we don't have them chewing things up. But then we came back. We went down I-80 through Cheyenne, and then into Nebraska, to like Lincoln, Nebraska. We stayed the night there in a Cracker Barrel parking lot, and then the directions had us cut southeast, and we cut the extreme southwest corner of Iowa. We cut right across that into Missouri. Got on I-29 actually while we were still in Iowa, and then we came down there, and today we got here and we came to our new apartment, which we had signed the lease for and paid for like yesterday, day before. And then they let us in. They were very nice. And they didn't even come with us, which felt kind of weird, but we went into our place, and it was kind of not super well cleaned. Like, it had new like wood floor, laminate type thing, floor, fake wood on the living room, and in the hall that went to 2 bedrooms, and I guess in the kitchen. I can't visualize what the kitchen was. The bedrooms were carpeted. Carpet was new. The new laminate floor. The looked like new cabinets in the kitchen, and probably a new stove. The fridge did not appear to be brand new, but it was very clean. Microwave was very clean. The light under the microwave didn't work. The stove, those pans under the electric burners didn't fit because they didn't have notches for the little like legs or whatever that the burners have, and so that was kind of weird, and so the burners didn't sit level. There was the walls, it was weird. The walls looked kind of painted, like maybe someone just did a real slapdash job on it, like, because there were some areas you could see stains, like probably where they had their dining room table, kind of, you could see like spill and kind of like food and drink type kind of on there, like maybe they just did a real bad coat of paint over it, didn't cover it or something. And then what else? One of the first places I looked, well, first of all, there was a little area for washer and dryer, and it had those kind of accordion type, double doors, and not accordion like those old 70s ones, but like it just was like 2 sections of it, and then 2 sections of it when you have it. But it was coming out of the track on one side, and you couldn't even close it. Like it didn't work. The only way it would stay in place is if you shoved the little piece up in the track and then kept it open. There was a water heater slash HVAC closet, and I looked in there. I mean, I don't know, I just was looking at everything, and it was like kind of weird because it was like filthy, like, I mean, not more filthy than you'd expect it to be if you had been living there. It was just like really dusty and stuff like that, cobwebby, and like the door to the closet was like slatted, and those things were loaded with dust. I mean, like clogged. It was like, so this is we're moving in. It's supposed to be all cleaned and painted, and it seems to have been somewhat painted, and brand new floors, but someone left all this major cake. It was just weird, and the inside of it was filled. It's like, you gotta clean this part too. And so I kind of looked a little closer around in there, like, this is weird. I noticed the HVAC filter was not new, and that's pretty dang standard stuff when you move in. It's like, that was old and full of dust, and I'm like, And then I looked down at the floor. It was like this stubby kind of short, fat water heater, and then above it was like this HVAC, and but I looked down at the water heater, and there was water below it on the floor, which was like a wood. It was like a different floor than outside of there, but it was like wood, like laminate or something. Water pooling. I'm like, oh, that's not It's not good. And then I noticed next to the water, which was right against the wall kind of, there was mold on the drywall in there. A pretty good amount. And looked pretty established. And I couldn't see, the water heater was pretty much as wide as the closet, so it looked like it probably continued back and behind it. And so I'm assuming the mold continued back there and maybe even into the wall and the other side of it. So I'm like, oh no, that is not good. So we were taking pictures and videos, and we ended up going in, and another weird thing was the water didn't, like the hot water would work, but the cold water wouldn't. And then one of the showers, no water. I'm like, what is going on? It looked like there was pee on the base of the commode. Like, we're just kind of like, what on earth? This is just not right. So we went to the office, like, hey, here's what we're seeing. And just at that point, I'm kind of like, well, it's just kind of processing here in my head. And I've lived in a lot of rental properties, a lot of apartments, and I've never come into a place that looked like this. And we're like, hey, your water water heater's leaking, messing your floor up. And yeah, there is this, does appear to be mold on the wall. And she's like, oh, did you smell anything? We're like, oh no. I mean, the whole place just smelled like new carpet, kind of that smell, that whatever that is, off gassing of synthetic fibers probably. And we're like, no. And she's like, oh, good, okay. And she just kind of went on and was like, oh, we'll get that taken care of. We'll fix that. And finally, when she stopped talking, I was like, well, what's the deal with the smell? You're talking, what is that about? Like, if we smelled something? She's like, well, you'd know it. It's mildew. I think she said it's mildew. It would be smell musty and damp. And I'm like, okay. And so we go back in there. They've handed the key to us. We're like, this is our deal now. We can be in there. And we're kind of thinking, boy, they seemed really concerned, like they knew. It seemed like they knew that that they were used to there being mildew is a mold, mildew problems that maybe were serious, because they're like, oh, thank God you didn't smell that. We're like, let's go check out, make sure there's nothing more to this. And we go and look a little closer, and it's like all of the vents had black mold on them. And I guess I had seen that at first, and I just kind of thought, oh, it's dust, from the air, from the ventilation or something, that those tend to accumulate dust, especially in the main bathroom. It was just covered. And I think we showed them that. We're like, this just was really covered, might even need to be replaced or something. And we're looking at those, we're like, man, that's black mold. And you could touch it, and it was like this crusty black dry stuff. And some of it some of it they had painted over, you could tell. And if you looked in the louvers behind the vent, where you can turn the louvers, those things inside, they had the black mold on them, and some of it had spread onto the paint, and you could see they had tried to paint over that, but it was on every vent. And this is a ground floor that is partially below ground. Like if you're in the back, there's like, it's 3 floors, and there's like units on each floor in the front, and then in the back there's more units. In the back, the ground comes up higher. So like in the back of the building, if you go to the ground units, you're going down some stairs. And and then and then you go into the unit. But in the front, along the sides, the ground slopes down. It's kind of built into a hill essentially. But on the side we were on, you walk in, you go up a ramp a little bit because the parking lot's down and the ground slopes up. So you're coming up to go in, and then but along the side of the building, the grade goes up, and the unit is below the ground on the side, and essentially on the back there's another unit behind you, but that unit is below grade. But anyway, so these kinds of areas can be more prone. Basements are more prone to mold and moisture problems that cause it. So I'm just sitting here thinking, okay, crap, there's a moisture problem. Not a huge surprise. I kind of hoped there wouldn't be something like that, but I'd never lived in a basement apartment. It's like there's a moisture problem and there's a mold problem, and it's a black mold. And it's like, okay, so what? We're just kind of like, what is going to happen? Because I'm assuming it's probably something like their eaves are leaking or other penetrations in the roof 3 floors up, and probably coming down into the walls all the way down to the bottom, and it's probably been going on for a long time, and there's probably pretty well established mold colony probably in all the bottom, I would guess, especially the way they seemed to know that there were issues. And we went and told them, like, okay, well, we're gonna rip out that water heater closet wall. We're just going to replace it. Are you okay with that? It's like, well, yeah, you have a mold problem in your building that we're renting for about a year, and yeah, you need to fix it. You don't have to ask me. And they're like, and we'll have somebody clean or give you new vent covers, and they'll clean out the vents. And I'm just sitting here thinking, I am not hearing anything about a mention of the source of the moisture. Yeah, and I don't claim to understand construction super well, or mold mitigation or cleanup super well. But I know that moisture is the big problem with that, and I didn't hear one mention of just dealing with the source of the moisture causing it. Now, I understand there could be moisture just in the air that could potentially be enough, I guess, to cause this, but they didn't say that either. They said nothing about it, and even if they had, I doubt it, to be honest. And we just kind of went back like, okay, and we're just like, we looked in there again, and it's just kind of, it's dawning on us like, oh my gosh, this isn't, because then you start thinking, well, wait, if this was their best to cover it up. Like, we were supposed to be there 3 weeks ago, but we pushed it out, and I'm thinking they had it probably all covered up 3 weeks ago, and this is what has spread through in 3 weeks, and they probably just happened to forget to go back and recover it or something. And so we were seeing what was really there, which we may not have seen it if we had gotten in there 3 weeks ago. So we're just thinking, how much more pervasive is it? How much of it is underneath paint? I mean, is it all over the wall and we can't see it because it's got some paint over it and it's going to come through in another 3 weeks? Or what's this going to look like? My thought then is it inside the walls? Is it under the floor coverings? It's very possible that it is. And I'm just thinking, yeah, you can do these tests. Are there spores in the air? There was mold on the surface of the toilet bowl water, like the spores in the air or something had landed there. I don't know how that worked, but it's like, we're looking up like what's our legal recourse, and you're supposed to give them landlords a chance to mitigate it, and I'm like, I just don't trust that there's not a pervasive moisture and mold problem in the adjacent units in the building in general. And then so they can clean out our vents and replace this piece of drywall. That doesn't mean there's not mold in the walls. And then you look online and people are like, well, if it's in the walls, it's trapped, it's not coming out to affect you. It's like, I don't like that, because it's like, well, it could spread and come out. And I don't want to do that to me or my loved ones and have that potentially affect their health. And so we were finally like, we called them because we had left at this point. And we're like, we just want to not do this. We wanted to terminate the lease and get our money back. And they're like, oh, why? And we're like, look, we're just not comfortable, that we don't trust that this is safe. And she had to like call her boss, and we ended up looking over the lease and stuff, and there was like kind of a loop. Well, there's kind of like an exception, because I was wondering, is there some kind of grace period? It's like we're not even 24 hours in, and we're trying to get out of it. It's like, it seems like maybe there should be some kind of grace. We hadn't even occupied the place technically. We hadn't put any personal property in there, nothing. And so we were like, okay, let us know. And like, we didn't hear back from her. So we scoured the lease, and there was this thing that was like, yeah, if for some reason you can't go into the apartment on your move-in date, because it's not habitable, and then you have like 3 days to cancel to terminate your lease and get your first month's rent and security deposit back. And we're like, bam, that's exactly it. That's what we need. And because it wasn't habitable arguably because of the black mold. And so I could see maybe them somehow arguing, well, it was habitable, you just have to let us clean it. But that's not true, because they had to go in and remove drywall that would disturb the mold. And I think there's no way you could in court argue that it was still habitable like that. So we're sitting here like, oh man, what are they going to do? They could really probably screw us if they wanted to and just say, sorry, you move in, or you're going to owe us all 13 months. Either way, owe us 13 months either way. You can live there or not. And so we wrote up an official written request on email. We were like, hey, we're here by officially requesting to terminate the lease and get a full refund of our money for these reasons. We don't have confidence that there's not a pervasive moisture and mold problem. And the lady ended up, we all had to send it, me and Nikki and Jacob, because we're all tenants on the lease separately. And so they ended up saying, okay, we'll give you all your money back. We'll terminate the lease. So thank God for that. God answered our prayers there. And I think we still need to send a hard copy. I would like to do that, which we're thinking of having that FedExed as soon as possible. And with a sign, a proof of receipt. We emailed her, and she's replied to that. So I think that could be sufficient evidence that she got it. And but then the next challenge is, where do we go? And where do we find an apartment? Because we're in the car. We're living in the car. It's unfortunately Kansas City, which is not as cool at night. It's not too bad. You can see I'm wearing my sweater. It's not as good of a place. Not as nice of a town. It's more crime. Kansas City pretty much sucks compared to most places, especially when you compare to somewhere like Laramie. And it's expensive. It's expensive to live in the parts that aren't crappy. So we're gonna see what we can figure out. Jacob is bummed out because he was looking forward to moving in with us, of course, and so feeling bad there. But we gotta get. All we can do is just keep trying, and so that's where we're at. We gotta try to stay positive. That's what I'm trying to do. And then the other thing is the DoorDash in here, it pays quite a bit less. it on average it pays like $15 an hour, and in Laramie it was like average paying $21, $22. Pretty freaking significant difference. Yeah, so it's this place just sucks. But anyway, we're gonna try to be on the bright side of it all. Oh yeah, some of the things, like we were in the mountains Thursday night, Friday day, Friday night, Saturday day, Saturday night, and Sunday morning. I didn't do more vlogs. I was going to do vlogs each night and then upload them later, but I didn't. I was going to do running vlogs too. That was a brand new thing I started. I did one day. I was going to do like my off days too, to kind of share like recovery / rest days, and so I'm going to try to start that back up if I can. We're going to be busy because we got to hustle. We've got to still make money, and it's harder to make money here. And we've got to hustle more than normal. We've got to find a new apartment. And you got to pay application fees and crap like that. It's like we paid those. We're not getting those back on this place. We paid those on another place we didn't get back. So, but anyway, I'm going to try to do the running vlog, a regular vlog like this. Get back to my blogs. I didn't post any blogs, the written things, for the past few days, which I was trying to do that every day. And I was going to do that in the mountains and post them later, but I didn't. My workout, like on Friday was a rest day. No. Friday was a run day, Saturday was a rest day. But Friday, because we went up like over 2,000 feet from 7220 to 95 something. So it makes a big difference to us, at least. Nikki's oxygen was low. We have an oximeter, and I didn't check mine, but I think it was probably okay. I checked it on the last day, and it was 95, which is pretty normal. But it is harder on you to live when you go up that much of a jump, especially if you go run. So on Friday, I didn't run. I put my ego in a box, to steal a term from Ben and Mary Bridges' YouTube channel. And I just did something else. What I did was I worked on building a trail, because the ground was like on this point. It's like you have this mountain up kind of behind the camp, and it gradually comes down, and then here's the camp, and here's the road, and then the camp, and then that comes out slopes down to this point, and then that drops, and then there's like another kind of marsh plateau, and then that drops down to a stream. But it's like we basically had this big point area, kind of flat, and it's still sloped down. But we stayed there before, and it's kind of the woods around there are real rugged and wild. Like there's down timber just everywhere, and so I wanted to make order out of the chaos. Like it'd be cool if there were some kind of trails here, so people could kind of know where to go without having to really just do rugged hiking. And so I made a trail on this. I didn't think to measure how long it was, but anyway, it was a pretty good sized trail. I made a trail that day, almost all of it on that day. And I think I probably did more work than I would have done if I'd just gone on an easy run. But I don't know, because it was slower pace and I could kind of stop. And I was lifting a lot of heavy logs and stuff, because I'd find down trees and move them over to make the border of a trail. And I made it all. It's kind of cool. I'll have to share videos on it. And it went down along the stream, and it crossed it, and it went on the other side, went back across it, and went up on this embankment, and where you kind of had this cool view. And then it turned as it sloped down, so you didn't get on that slope part, because those parts were just coated in down trees that you couldn't make your way across them. And it kind of went back into an open glade type of area. And anyway, it was cool. And I ended up probably doing 4 to 5 hours of work. That was my workout. I put it as a couple separate hikes on Strava. And it'll probably look weird because the distance doesn't look that long, but a lot of it was I was just lifting stuff and putting it on the sides of the trail, and raking the trail. And I was sore. My posterior chain was very sore, I guess because I was basically kind of doing a lot of deadlifts with the dead trees and stuff. I even felled one tree that was dead already. But yeah, it was a lot of strength and work, and lighter on the endurance. And then Sunday was a scheduled, would have been my long run, but we were driving the whole day, and plus we had to deal with that mouse issue, so that ate into our day a little bit. I guess not too much, but so we were just driving. We drove until 9:30. We were done, so I just skipped that, unfortunately. But that's the reality of it. I guess it's probably an excuse. I could have done something when I got to our bed place, but I think by then it was like 12:30 a.m. or something, so I don't know. But then that was Sunday. And then I think, by the way, Saturday I did some more work on the trail. I finished it and cleaned up some, so that was also some extra activity, especially at altitude like that. I don't feel too bad about the amount of exercise I did there. So I'm going to try to get back on my exercising here and on my music, I guess. I hadn't been doing music lately because I was doing a lot of that while we were delivering DoorDash, but the deliveries were so short in Laramie that it was just not as convenient. You'd have just a real short drives all the time, but that is an excuse. I could have done something. It would have been a pain and hard, but I was just thinking, well, we're going to be in our apartment anytime soon, then it's going to be a lot easier. But we'll see what happens there. And I want to get back to blogging, but things are different for a while because we got to try to get an apartment. And but again, just thankful to God that we were getting the whole deposit and first month's rent back, and that we didn't end up just being in there with black mold because we didn't want to rock the boat. That's one thing in life. People will, and we've learned this with mechanics, people will just, there's plenty, I'm not saying everyone's bad people, but there's plenty of people that will basically just not do right by you, not go out of their way to do right by you, and will just kind of use you to do their slapdash work and give the squeaky wheels the grease, I should say. You know, you gotta be, Jesus said, to be as gentle as doves and wise as cunning as serpents, or one, I think the Good News said cunning, but I think most versions say wise. You can't be a doormat. Not to say you never take mistreatment. Jesus certainly was the ultimate example of taking undeserved mistreatment. But from day to day general life, he doesn't require us to be walked on. Yes, turn your cheek and things like that, but don't necessarily keep turning cheeks. You've got to watch yourself. You've got to, you know, I don't know, I don't want to say it the wrong way, but it's like, you don't necessarily just give people undeserved trust all the time. You have to go in with eyes wide open about what you're getting into. You don't know. You go to a mechanic, you go to a lease, you don't know anything about these people. And there are plenty of people that'll just lie, and even if it's a passive form of lying or something, just kind of cutting corners or not doing the due diligence. People do it. In my experience in workplaces, it is more common than not. People just cut corners, and if you're easy going, they're gonna probably cut the corners with you. They're probably gonna try to save time and effort on you, as opposed to someone that's going to demand more out of them as a customer. And so you've got to try to think the best of people, but you've also got to be a bit of a hard ass. You know, you got to be like, what about this? What about that? Did you do this? Did you do that? Why is this? Why am I seeing this? What's that? You know, you can't worry about upsetting people, because it's not right to yourself or your loved ones, or to the things, the assets that God's giving you, to just let someone mistreat them. You know, we like something as simple as like a Valvoline oil change. A guy was like, you need your transmission fluid flushed. And all we've ever heard in our research and talking to mechanics is like, don't do that at this point, because there's debris in there and you don't want that stuff getting stirred up. You're better off leaving it like it is for now. And the guy, you could tell the guy's like, oh, I'm just telling you, it does need. It's like, well, I'm not an idiot either. I'm not a mechanic, but you know what? Neither are you. You're a Valvoline guy. And even if you were, I'm not required to do that. I know enough to know I don't want to do that. I have enough knowledge to say, nope, I'm not doing that now, and it's not personal. So you've got to be firm. You don't have to take it personally and be a jerk, but you do have to be firm. And, you know, basically be like this car, we had the motor mounts needed replaced, and we had people telling us, oh no, it's fine, that's not what's causing your loss of power, why the car's sluggish and shaky and all this. And like, it's just an inconvenience because it'll kind of rattle the engine. And we ended up getting a different opinion, and it was like a third or fourth opinion, and it like fixed everything. The car was so much smoother, it had so much better miles per fuel efficiency, more power going up. It wasn't struggling, which is not hard to imagine. If the effort of the engine is going into shaking it around, you're losing the power that it would be going into the drivetrain. So don't discount your instincts. You know, these guys, people like this aren't always. There's people that are just out to take the shortest path that they can take. They're lazy. I think often that's it. Your average employee that I've encountered is lazy. and they know what they can do and get away with, and that makes the company the most revenue and saves their costs in the short run, at least, and then they get rewarded for it. That's how it works. But a lot of it is they're not always as smart as you might think, and you're not maybe as dumb as you might think on these things. Even if you're not a mechanic, for example, it doesn't mean that the mechanic, there's things that people overlook all the time because people just don't want to put in the effort. So just, I don't know, I guess I've gone on for so long here, but this is where we're at, and so we're gonna just keep fighting to try to get a place for Jacob and us, and we're gonna keep trying to do the things that we feel we're supposed to be doing, like the writing, and Nikki's doing her stickers and doing social media stuff, and I guess I gotta try to start the music up again and running and stuff, but it's different here. The schedule will be different for us because Laramie was like 3 to 9 p.m. was the only time that was really worth dashing. Here it's a bit different. There's like a 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and a 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. type thing, and you got to do more time because it pays less overall. And so we'll see how it works. But anyway, sorry for the delay in getting everything out, or for missing videos and stuff. But we'll be keeping you updated the best we can, and thank you for watching. All right.